Good evening, everybody. You are back for another episode of Awoken with Aulden on this Awoken Wednesday. Excited to be back with you on Wednesday, December, I believe the 17th of 2025. Thrilled to be back with you once again. Last week, just a quick recap of last week. Discussed the national security strategy with our inaugural guest, Alex. I want to thank him again for his time and analysis of the very important document laid out by the Trump administration, which looks like it could be getting some play tonight. Reports are indicating that the president is calling, he will address the population with a potentially rumored for a declaring war against the Venezuelan regime led by Nicolas Maduro. That was our first YouTube episode, was about potential regime change. Check that out. Sometime you have any availability. And really, we're looking at just a quick little timeline to go along with him is when Chavez kicked the can, and I believe 2013, Maduro was the successor, filled the gap after the death. I believe he died of cancer or something. So Maduro comes into play and he wins, I believe, the first election, which is generally seen as fair. At fair enough, at least. But this time, I believe the 2024 election has been deemed illegitimate by most Western powers and governments. And it's causing a little bit of panic inside of Caracas, which is where the nation is located, the capital city. We've seen a more recent timeline develop of these naval boat attacks against these alleged drug traffickers, narco terrorists, whatever you want to call them. We're also seeing last week, I believe a week ago today, the first seizure of a sanctioned oil tanker that was heading to the Iranians, leaving Venezuela. So we're talking at some major escalation, and we saw the president released a Truth Social the other day signaling the airlines and the flight paths should be cut off. And last night, the most significant upbeat calling for all oil and all of the waters to be paused, shut down, at least for the time being. And we're going to see what the president says tonight about this topic. Our main topic, though, I want to get into is the nation of Sudan. It has not been getting a lot of attention the past, really ever, honestly. Most people in America likely don't know where Sudan sits on the map, which continent it's in, etc. That aside, there is a massive atrocity going on as we speak right this moment of mass killings of civilians by two competing military forces within Sudan. But before we dive into that, I want to remind you, if this is your first time checking out the channel or the show, please smash that subscribe button. I need more people to become awoken so it can unlock more minds. Please share the video, give the video a like with your friends, share it with your friends, your mother, your bus driver, whoever is in your life that needs to become awoken with Aulden. We are now got the Spotify channel going. Rumble is still in the process of being set up. We have the X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, of course. I not going to lie here. I kind of feel like remember that episode Plankton has to play the harmonica, Squidward tentacles. He's trying to quickly assemble a civilian band of residents in Bikini Bottom on a quick timeline because he wants to defeat Swilliam Fancy Son. Show that he can prove that he has the music expertise. And Plankton is tasked with the harmonica. And I feel like Plankton right now running to each gap on all these different social platforms because it's a lot of new stuff to learn, but we are getting there, going to get you all that we can. Okay, so without further ado, we will begin tonight's presentation. Try to keep it on got about 40 minutes until the president is projected to speak, and we will pull that guy up here. Okay, and I want this one. Okay, tremendous. Let me pull this. Okay. So Sudan is collapsing. That's the main story and the main takeaway that I would prefer that you understand about what is going on right now. So where does Sudan sit on the map? Northern, Northeast Africa. It borders the Red Sea, so there's significant shipping lanes. It borders 7 nations, of which I believe Chad, Libya, South Sudan, Djibouti, I believe it's called, or Eritrea, and a few other African nations. But the Red Sea is a key battle point for control of the territory because the last couple of weeks, what other groups have we talked about that also help occupy the Red Sea? The Houthis in Yemen, the Iranian-backed proxy, and the Somali pirates in the Horn of Africa. I'm not sure if you can see the cursor, but that little horn kind of sticking out like the rhino horn. We talked about Somalia a couple weeks ago. We'll do at this rate, I think we need to do a talk on the Houthis by themselves because we did one about Hezbollah in southern Lebanon before. So we're trying to carve out this entire region so you understand what's really going on here. Africa's crossroads, as I mentioned, the Red Sea access, and there are 7 nations that border the nation. So right here, right? So this tonight is not going to be primarily about South Sudan because it's now another country. Just a quick little backstory on it, though. You have before 2011, it used to be included in Sudan, but decades of civil war, the remaining Sudan, regular Sudan, is more. It's a Muslim majority nation. I believe 90% Islam is the dominating religion in the country, and the South Sudan is a more Christian population. Decades of civil war, of fighting and killing, eventually lead to where South Sudan is able to get all of the necessary steps from the UN to declare independence. And something that is big that can kind of prep us for the rest is that you got South Sudan. They struck black gold, ton of oil in South Sudan, not as much in regular Sudan. So keep that in mind as we continue. So going back in 1989, not wanting to go all the way back, Sudan has been, I believe, since 1955, they got their independence. And it's a population of 50 to 52 million some odd people. Just a quick little rough draft for your mental thinkings here. So this fella, Omar al-Bashir, his regime, military dictatorship from 89 to 19, a nice little 30-year run, right? And he, even the people before him, so something that is a very rinse and repeat in Sudan is there's a regime in power for a period of time. Eventually, the regime is growing too unpopular, and the civilian population revolts, and it collapses. Something else fills it, and it's the same thing. It's some other dictator, warlord type figure, and it causes the civilian population in X amount of years to do the same thing. And it's been going this way until this very moment. That's all the nation has really ever experienced, unfortunately, for the civilian population who's truly innocent and caught in the crossfires of it. And but al-Bashir, he had a different idea. He was like, okay, I've seen all these other guys fall. What's in common? Why did they all fall? And he, at the time, thought it was a great idea, but looking back, not so great now. And that idea was the Rapid Support Forces, a parallel military apparatus, a part of his regime. And Darfur, it's a western region in the nation of Sudan. And this group itself evolved from Janjaweed. And that was the name of the military force at the time. Bashir used these men in the militia for protection. And so that's a quick little backstory of where the Rapid Support Forces come from. They'll be discussed a lot this evening. So the big mistake was creating this military, because he created it in 13. So, like, as we've mentioned, all of these leaders eventually start seeing the writing on the wall. So they're trying to see what they can do to stay around longer. And they're kind of similar to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran with the supreme leader, but not the same necessarily, because they're not a state within a state, right? The IRGC totally is much more powerful and influential than the regular Iranian military. And they also have a very, very deep ties with the supreme leader. These guys at the time, they had the ties with the warlord, but not anymore. So the regular Sudanese military, the Sudanese Armed Forces, led by still currently General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the other side of the Rapid Support Forces are led by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hameti. Hameti is nickname. That's what he's known as in Sudanese society and media. So that's what we'll be referring to him as this evening. So these guys they realize that, hey, if we were the two strongest military groups in the nation, and this guy, he's unpopular, the civilian population hates Bashir or Bashir, and we can try regime change. So the 2019 mass protests occur, and the two gentlemen prior are they have this like power sharing agreement, more or less. He's removed and the military stays. Okay, great. Okay, the 2021 military coup and the civilian protests, they're ignored again. So I should say there's within that 2-year loop period, there's this promise of a civilian transitional government. Same story as the decades prior. The civilian protests, they're ignored. And Burhan and Hamedi, they seize control. So out with the civilians and in come the generals. So here's, as I mentioned, they were a team, right? It was almost like an arranged marriage that was kind of working out for a little bit. However, the deal, it wasn't true love. The deal that failed. There was that joint rule period, and they agreed, or at least in principle agreed, that they should have this like military government. But it was the dispute, as I mentioned, it's the two largest military forces. And if they merge into one, that means somebody, as a result, is getting the short end of the stick. No matter how you cut the cookie or how you cut the pie, somebody's getting screwed over. And the Sudanese armed forces, led by Mohammed Hamdan Gallo, excuse me. No, that's the other guy. Excuse me. Regardless, said, all right, I want a 2-year timeline. And that would have crushed the rapid support forces. And the rapid support forces wanted a 10-year timeline, which would have allowed them to continue growing and eventually maybe become the majority. So that's where these two men split. So really, if you think about it, they agreed to overthrow the first dictator, but they could not agree which one of them should be the next dictator. That's really what we're looking at. So then just a couple years ago now, it all collapses and it's time for another war in Sudan. The war between these two generals takes off, it rockets off, and the civil war erupts in the capital, Khartoum. So it's not just these two guys and that are really involved. There are external actors, as in most conflicts. There's funding, weapon shipments and drops, etc. So, as I mentioned before, it is a majority is Islamic, 90% Islam, Muslim majority, and they are a part. Technically, they're considered a part of like the Arab League. I think it is the Arab, kind of like how they're also in the African Union. They're a part. They're considered in the Arab constituency. So there's gold in foreign Russia, the Wagner Group. We remember them. The United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all those, the Saudis, and it really becomes a proxy. It's a very big proxy battle going on. So major players are at stake. But here's the side that stinks, more or less, is you have this humanitarian collapse, and millions upon millions of civilians. You see the young children here. We're lucky that in America, most of us, we get to go to school, eat lunch at the lunch table with their friends, complain about homework, but those kids never get that opportunity. All they know is death, destruction, and famine and hunger. So I shouldn't say tens of millions, but millions upon millions of civilians are out. They have to flee to escape persecution or certain death. And as I mentioned, the hospitals are gone. It's in every man for themselves. The refugee crisis, all in those 7 nations: Egypt, Ethiopia, South Sudan. All those guys have an increased number of refugees entering, or attempting to enter, I should say. So that kind of begs the question: is why haven't you maybe not heard about this yet, even though it is something that has been happening, for the past several, really ever since this nation was formed. And well, we're not directly involved, and even those foreign players I mentioned, the United States, generally the generic placement and position is, oh, we want to limit civilian casualties, punish people who commit genocide and famine, and yeah, more or less stuff like that. And as I mentioned, you probably haven't been able to maybe say, oh, one guy is better than the other guy yet. So that's something to take into account and to remember. And it's difficult, right? There's a lot of history with Sudan, South Sudan, all, the warlords, the western region of the country they're under attack. That's why the rapid support forces really had that springboard from Jajuweed. Difficult to explain, and a lot of coverage in Africa. Even we know what's going on in South Africa right now. And there's, Alex mentioned this last week during the national security strategy video, is the Libya has open air slave markets. There's conflict in almost all of these nations. Generally, just as a rule of thumb, and when we talked about Somalia, it's clan fight. It's always disagreements within the population itself a lot of the times. So there's just internal stuff they have to figure out first, which who knows if they ever really will, unfortunately. And so where are we at this very moment? Sudan, it's the 3rd year of this conflict. It's 12 million have been displaced. As I mentioned, the refugee crisis is large and only growing bigger by the day. Genocide, other atrocities, mass starvations, and peace talks stalled. So I mentioned a couple of slides ago, one of the big things that, at least that they were hoping after Bashir left, was that there to be this civilian government. The goal of the civilians every time is to get the civilian government implemented so they can have some kind of democracy and not have this constant cycle to where there's a war, someone gets overthrown, and the next thing happens. It's just on repeat. It's like a record player that is broken and just keeps making the same noise. Like I said, these guys, they knew that they had to overthrow one of the dictators, but they couldn't decide which one of them would be the next dictator, and did not really work that out with, and denied the civilian population again. So it's every time the civilian population, they're the losers, and these warlords continue to dominate more or less. I believe that's the last guy. So yeah, we're going to remove this from, and I'm go back to full screen. We got a couple comments here. Let's check these comments out. So we got from at Nicholas Alexander 940. Sudan has some big problems going on right now. Absolutely, has some big problems indeed. And at the Polar Politics, huge issues with Sudan, large humanitarian crisis. And a question from at the Polar Politics: do you think the U.S. should be sending money to the Sudan when we are 38 trillion in debt? I do not believe we should be sending them money. We have our own problems. That doesn't mean that we can't be respectful and sympathetic to the Sudanese people, because no innocent person deserves to die, especially these children. As I mentioned, they don't know what it's like to be a kid. All they know is survival and hunger, and maybe their parents get killed in front of them. Something actually really sad and upsetting for children. But there are children in this nation that sadly can't eat enough, or they're being neglected and abused. Doesn't mean two wrongs make a right necessarily, but America first, right? Got one more, and from at Nicholas Alexander 940. Do you think we should send troops to act as peacekeepers? I believe we should entirely stay out of this, especially with the high volatility between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese Armed Forces. Maybe the United Nations, and I believe there was an attack on United Nations peacekeepers just in the last day or two. So it is a very unfortunate situation. I think a lot of these bordering countries have been letting refugees in, but I have seen the Rapid Support Forces, I believe, reports of they've killed 10,000-20,000 people in the last couple of days or weeks even. So it's a very, like I said, it's collapsing in real time. So now for the media, what's going to have to happen is the media is going to have to start talking about it a lot. And right now that's not the case. We hear about conflict in Ukraine and Russia all the time, and as well as the Israel-Hamas conflict in the Middle East and Europe for Ukraine, Russia. But we don't hear about the Sudan conflict, or really even the South Africa conflict. That it's just Africa as a whole is generally a little tougher to deal with, for maybe a little harder to understand for United States population. You had great questions and comments. If anyone else has any questions or comments, please send them. We got about 50. We'll stay on. We'll keep talking. There's some other small, I shouldn't say small, but maybe more side stories that occurred over the weekend. A couple mass killings, one in the U.S., I believe the Brown University shooting on maybe Saturday, and the Bondi Beach shooting at a synagogue in Australia. Both very sad and unfortunate tragedies of innocent life being taken from innocent people. Kind of start with the Brown University one. You have, from what seemed, there could be a sense that it was politically motivated potentially, that I believe one of the victims was the vice chairwoman or the vice president of the chapter of the college Republican chapter at Brown University. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. And this one at Bondi Beach is a little interesting also, because I believe over a dozen, maybe 15, I think, were killed. So it's to do that. And if you look at the video of the civilian who tackles this guy, is the it doesn't look like a typical or generic maybe AR-15 or something, an automatic rifle. It seemed to be like a one pump shot deal, and that would signal that there's some kind of advancement or advanced training or tactical skills at the time, or at least that was could maybe be inferred. But it does, I think it was some Islamic individual with his son, is what they were saying, and they carried out this attack. The media reports seem to kind of be different, that some people are trying to say it's an Iranian-backed attack or sponsored or whatever. And then some, from what the official story seems to be, is that it's an ISIS attack, which both of those, I believe, only one could really be true, because just a quick little thing about like the Muslim, you have the Sunni and Shiite Muslims. Sunnis are about 85% of the world's Muslims, and the Shiites are about 15%. The Sunnis, I believe all Muslims do, but they're kind of, quote, like headquarter. That's more of the Saudi Arabia thing. You have the oh goodness, the black cube that they walk around within Saudi Arabia, the Islamic Caliphate, and they they're like 85% of the Muslim, and that would be like more in ISIS. ISIS, I believe, spawned out of the Saudi Arabia, and the Shiites, they're about 15%, and they're more concentrated within Iran and somewhat Iraq and Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas within Palestine, more or less. And they look up, or it's an Islamic Republic in Iran, right? It's a theocracy. So they look up to the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. And so both of those groups, they're not the same. They're both Muslim, but that's kind of the deal, I believe, with that. So I'd say maybe after this, just kind of see which groups or individuals are trying to push which side, and see how it might benefit each of those groups that they're talking about. And that's a little homework for you. Yeah. So we're about 10 minutes out from the presidential address. Back to Venezuela a little bit. is you have, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show, you have this incredible escalation of rhetoric and force now used by the United States. Uh, I believe there was a push. You probably heard about the double tap strike on that boat back in, I believe, September or something, and that the allegation is that there were survivors off of it, and the Pentagon chose to hit again for knowing that they were just sitting there in water. And I believe that the video was it was blocked. The release of it was blocked by the Congress earlier this week or something. And I believe even earlier today they barely blocked like the War Powers resolution. Only 3 Republicans, believe Don Bacon of Nebraska, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, and Thomas Massie of Kentucky voted yes on the Republican side. But I think 8 or 9 or 10 representatives did not show up to vote on it. So just really goes to show how really worthless of an institution Congress is becoming. Truly, it cannot. It's surrendered so much of its power to the executive in the past several decades, and it really still has the power of the purse, but it's becoming a little weaker as time goes on each day. So here we're going to share our screen here. And here, let's see. Let's see where I can get there. Great. Yeah, let's just check out Twitter for a few minutes, just kind of help pass the time. But again, if you have more comments, please send them our way. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, that should have worked. Well, hang on now. It's starting to get hot in here. Not sure why this guy isn't going. Because I do have a second presentation, depending on what the president says tonight, teed up. But I think it worked fine last week. That's a little frustrating. Okay. Thank you, God, now. Okay, good. All right, yeah, you can still see me. Yeah, that's fine. Here, I want to change it real quick. Yeah. All right. That's just like. Goldman. All right, so that's the healthcare bill. I'm trying to find the tweet about. war powers resolution that was voted on today. Yeah, here's the congressman from Kentucky, Thomas Massey. He's a very great America First congressman. He is always, uh, usually voting the way that is very America First, that we are happy about. Okay, so here, the Venezuela War Powers Resolution has failed in a vote of 211 and 213, with 9 members not voting. So you see, it's just another deal after another. Okay, so this judge Napolitano. Oh, a quote tweet from Tulsi Gabbard back in early 2019: the United States needs to stay out of Venezuela. Let the Venezuelan people determine their future. We don't want other countries to choose our leaders, so we have to stop trying to choose theirs. Yeah, time is kind of funny with that. Okay, we're not going to listen to Geraldo. Okay, from AF. Okay, so the Pentagon pizza tracker is booming up right now. There appears to be unusually high demand at pizza shops near the Pentagon tonight. And something I will say, so something that has really like this guy. So actually, I won't get into that tonight. Yeah, so the big play that the admin is trying to get to believe is that there's all these drugs coming in from Venezuela, which they're definitely guilty of some of it. But you would think, we talked about a couple weeks ago, in Venezuela, excuse me, Mexico, with the cartels is really where this deal is. Where a majority of these drugs are coming from. So yeah, it is going to be super interesting to see what he does say, because if and remember, just right now, the Epstein files, they're supposed to be released tomorrow, or excuse me, Friday the 19th. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Venezuela today. So yeah, we're about a minute away from the president going. Let's just go to let's see if we can just stream it. Oh yeah, okay. So the White House has just started. Yeah, they're about to begin. So this is going to be pretty important here. So we'll just kind of keep our eye on this guy for a moment. Who knows if they'll get going right at 9 o'clock, or if they'll wait a minute or two. But yeah, again, just if you're just joining now, we talked about the conflict in Sudan earlier this evening. We can do a little recap once the president, the remarks are over or completed. Um, a lot of stuff going on. I mentioned the mass shootings over the weekend in Australia and at Brown University, and Venezuela regime change attempt or operation might be broadcasted live tonight by the president of the United States. Would be depending on, let's just assume there is some it would depend on what it is or the level of it, because it would break a campaign promise of no new wars. So maybe Maduro struck a deal, or who knows. But we're going to have to keep checking this guy out. But yeah, again, if you have anything to say, I'll check the studio real quick. Actually, I guess you don't really need to be on Twitter, and I can full screen the Twitter, but let's just go ahead and do that. Yeah, how's that look? Okay, that looks good. Okay. It's struggling. The stream is struggling right now.
In jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members.
Yeah, it's struggling to hang on.
11,888 murders. More than 50% of whom killed more.
Come on, Twitter.
Than one person. This is what the Biden administration.
Yeah, it's probably being pushed to the max right now.
Of us at levels never seen before. They
Yeah, it's just kind of screwing up tonight.
flooded your cities and towns with illegal aliens. They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate for America. They just released a level of violent felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent Day one, I took immediate action to stop the invasion of our southern border. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been allowed into our country, a feat which everyone said was absolutely impossible. Do you remember when Joe Biden said that he needed Congress to pass legislation to help close the border? He was always blaming Congress and everyone else. As it turned out, we didn't need legislation. We just needed a new president. We inherited the worst border anywhere in the world, and we quickly turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. In other words, in a few short months, we went from worst to best. We're deporting criminals, restoring
worse to
safety to our
first.
most
That's the
dangerous
rhyme.
cities. Just take a look at Washington, D.C. It's at levels of safety that we've never seen before. And they decimated the bloodthirsty foreign drug cartels. We did that all by ourselves with our people, and we're so proud of it because they were poisoning and destroying our population. Drugs brought in by ocean and by sea are now down 94%. We have broken the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools, and control over those schools is back now in the hands of our great and loving states where education belongs. After rebuilding the United States military in my first term, and with the addition we are adding right now, we have the most powerful military anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East, and secured the release of the hostages, both living and dead. Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. Bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast. Let's look at the facts. Under the Biden administration, car prices rose 22%, and in many states, 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%. Airfares rose 31%. Now, under our leadership, they are all coming down and coming down fast. Democrat politicians also sent the cost of groceries soaring, but we are solving that too. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last year.
Well, we
The
can't
price
see
of eggs
anything.
is down
They're trying to get people a
82%
text.
since March, and everything else is falling rapidly. And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. Nobody can believe what's going on. Here are just some of the efforts that we have underway. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Under Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000. Under Trump, the typical factory worker has seen a wage increase of $1,300. For construction workers, it's $1,800. For miners, we're bringing back clean, beautiful coal. it's $3,300. And for the first time in years, wages are rising much faster than inflation. Remember that. The wages, just look at it. Wages are going up much faster than inflation. How big is that? Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that, 100%.
What's the mass layoffs with Doge to begin this calendar year? Just keep that in mind.
Of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government, which is the only way to make a country powerful and great. This historic trend will continue. Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us. But not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs. And that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen. AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible.
Come on, bro.
Not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it. 1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail. Totally failed. Now, we're the hottest.
Wonder if it's just the White House stream itself.
Country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader
We'll see
that
if
I've
this
spoken to over the last
be
5
faster
months.
when it's not.
Next year, you will also see the
All in.
results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way, we now have record enlistment in our military, and last year we had among the worst recruitment numbers in our military's history. What a difference a year makes. In addition, I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done, standing up to the special interests to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations, which were taking advantage of our country for many decades, to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400 500 and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward. And I use the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they'll be going down by numbers never conceived possible. It's called most favored nation, and no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, trumprx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. I'm also taking on the gigantic health insurance companies that have gotten rich on billions of dollars of money that should go directly to the people. The money should go to the people. That's you. So they can buy their own health insurance, which will give far better benefits at much lower cost. It will be far better health insurance. The current Unaffordable Care Act was created to make insurance companies rich. It was bad health care at much too high a cost. And you see that now in the steep increase in premiums being demanded by the Democrats, and they are demanding those increases, and it's their fault. It is not the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Unaffordable Care Act, and everybody knew it. Again, I want the money to go directly to the people so you can buy your own health care. You'll get much better health care at a much lower price. The only losers will be insurance companies that have gotten rich, and the Democrat Party, which is totally controlled by those same insurance companies. They will not be happy, but that's okay with me because you, the people, are finally going to be getting great health care at a lower cost. Another major focus is the cost of energy. For years, the radical left Democrats exploited the green energy scam as an excuse to funnel many billions of dollars into their own massive slush funds, as their energy restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up at record levels. Electricity costs surged 30 to 100% under Biden, and the typical family lost $5,000 to $10,000 in higher energy costs. Think of that, $5,000 to $10,000 you lost. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the next 12 months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants, a record, and it's a record that won't be beaten by practically, I would say, by anybody.
Looks like a lot around Evansville down there. That low corner's all clogged up.
Dramatically. The Democrat inflation disaster, again, the worst in the history of our country, also robbed millions of Americans of home ownership and indeed the American dream. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000, and it's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see, the numbers are going to be shocking. And I'll soon announce our next chairman of the Federal Reserve, someone who believes in lower interest rates by a lot, and mortgage payments will be coming down even further. Early the new year, and you will see this, in the new year, I will announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. A major factor in driving up housing costs was the colossal border invasion. We have never been invaded. This is the worst thing.
Yeah, just imagine,
frankly, in my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden
the denominator
did to our
increased by 10 million people of trying to get home.
The last
so
administration and their allies in Congress brought in millions and millions of migrants and gave them taxpayer-funded housing, while your rent and housing costs skyrocketed. Over 60% of growth in the rental market came from foreign migrants. At the same time, illegal aliens stole American jobs and flooded emergency rooms, getting free health care and education paid for by you, the American taxpayer. They also increased the cost of law enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration as migrants go back home. leaving more housing and more jobs for Americans. In the year before my election, all net creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American born citizens. 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat the system, and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation. Look at Minnesota, where Somalians have taken over the
We talked
economics
about
of the
that a couple
state
weeks
and have
ago.
stolen billions and billions of dollars from Minnesota and indeed from the United States of America. And we're going to put an end to it. For so long as before my election, the vast majority of good and decent Americans were forced to watch as corrupt politicians plundered the halls of power, exploited our taxpayers, and pillaged
Well, the thing
every
is,
system
when
that
are
makes
the
civilized
deportations going to
society
start?
function.
Like,
But
start by
not
deporting
anymore, and
some
you
of
see
these
that every
Somalians.
day. Not anymore. We're putting America first, and we are making America great again. Very simple. We are making America great again. Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure. Inflation is stopped. Wages are up. Prices are down. Our nation is strong. America is respected, and our country is back stronger than ever before. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen. Soon we will host the World Cup and the Olympics, both of which I got. But most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There could be no more fitting tribute to this epic milestone than to complete the comeback of America that began just 1 year ago. When the world looks at us next year, let them see a nation that is loyal to its citizens, faithful to its workers, confident to its identity, certain to its destiny, and the envy of the entire globe. We are respected again like we have never been respected before. To each and every one of you, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you all.
All right, so no announcement of intervention in the Middle East. Or excuse me, in Venezuela. I guess no intervention in the Middle East as well. Okay, so that is pretty uh yeah, maybe they use the Venezuela thing to try to hype up and get more people to tune in and spectate to the speech. Um, yeah, who knows? Um, but yeah, we're just going to have to continue. We will continue following Venezuela. There was a little quick recap of the speech stuff I heard. Definitely painted a very rosy painting to the American people as, and consider the timeline. The president's numbers, they're not looking particularly sexy right now. The approval is down. The job satisfaction, the uh, favorable, disfavorable, whatever, all that crap is pointing downward. So we've also, I believe, earlier today saw that Dan Bongino is heading for the exit, the deputy director of the, I think, FBI, right? Yeah. Um, no, not FBI. I think so, or CIA. Yeah, CIA. He's Patel's number two. Bondi is the chick at the not chick, the woman at the FBI. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, goodness. Anyway, a lot to unpack there. A couple other things that I saw kind of instant reaction is mentioned the tariffs again. Mentioned uh, homes. You saw harped on homes a lot there, particularly with the affordability issue as young Americans begin to, or even continue to, lose more and more faith that they'll ever own a home in their lifetime. So that's going to be something I believe you see the admin really put as we gear towards the midterms. That was almost kind of a speech, kind of like the battle cry before the midterms, right? There's the Republicans are really going to be trying to defend the House. Their slim House majority, it's only a couple, and they're losing a couple members that will be resigning that early next calendar year. And the Senate, even though the map looks, excuse me, even though the map looks a little better, you still have people like Susan Collins, in Maine, the open seat now in North Carolina. Tillis is heading for the exits. It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to say, "Oh, it's the most important election of your life." Yeah, I'm not going to be saying that, but it will be consequential up to a point, because we'll see there has been a lot of redistricting and redrawing that has happened, or at least talks of it. In Indiana, the Senate vote tanked; it didn't go through. So Indiana, they're keeping their House seats the same. So yeah, we'll keep monitoring that as time goes on, right? So unless if anyone else still around has any other additional questions, I'm going to probably go to side off here, and we will. Oh, sorry, a little tired this week. We will. Oh, a little programming note. Next, I believe, if you can believe it, next Wednesday evening, I believe, is Christmas Eve. So we won't do Wednesday. We'll do one Tuesday to replace the Wednesday, and probably that it's the same deal. New Year's Eve is also a Wednesday. We'll probably do it maybe the 30th. Maybe we'll do a random episode on a weekend or something. I'm going to have a lot of time the next couple weeks to really try and beef up production and get more stuff out and discuss more to you. So that's a little programming update for next week. Please, again, if you're still around, make sure that you have hit that subscribe button, that follow button on YouTube, or on X rather. Got this new platform, so I'm able to stream on both of these platforms at the same time. So now we're a multi-platform show, and yeah, we're just going to keep doing all we can to wake up more minds. Okay, so it looks like we are just kind of chilling right now. So thank you for tuning in tonight, and you have been awoken with Aulden. All right, much love, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday.